When did my job become pitching you ideas?
Right! Let's just do this. I have English homework.
You're still learning English? It's the language you speak.
Holy crap, I love that episode of Rick and Morty. Holy crap. Dude, oh my god. I totally understand now why so many people have the hots for Rick. And it's dark because they do. Let me tell you why I love this episode so freaking much. Because Rick is a badass. He's a villain, but he's a hero. But he's not exactly an anti-hero. It just solidifies how much of a badass he was. I mean, in trying to teach Morty a lesson, he also kind of taught us a lesson, which is not to forget who we're dealing with. Oh my god. I love this episode so much. Okay, let's go back over the episode so we can get a quick recap and so I can try coherently as much as I can to tell you guys why I love this episode, everything about it.
Oh shit, suicide by cop. I love these.
So Rick and Morty have a little bit of a testy start when they go on, and well, Rick says it's not an adventure, but they go to do this exchange with these mob boss aliens. Rick says that nothing will go wrong, but if it does, he always has something in place to ensure their survival. I'm pretty sure even if they died then, just another clone of Rick would just pop up somewhere. Rick is the proverbial Inspector Gadget meets Iron Man, but like times 6,000. Anyways, of course, the mob people double cross them. Morty is in an annoying mood, and I just love the interaction that they have in the beginning because it seems so real. You could tell that Morty is annoyed because Rick's not listening to his ideas.
Bones at the bottom. If things go wrong, which they won't, we jump into the vat of acid and I'll release the bones. They'll float up. What is this face you're making?
Aren't you an inventor?
Yeah, what part of a fake acid vat with built-in air supply and quick-release bones isn't inventive enough for you? And when did my job become pitching you ideas?
Right!
Rick's always the one pulling the punches. Rick is the smarter one, I get it. But Rick is totally egotistical, and can you blame him considering the achievements that he has? He's essentially God. And don't tell me you guys wouldn't be egotistical if you had that much power. Every human being on the face of the freaking planet would be a bit egotistical if someone was an asswipe and they could just blow on the person to make their head come off, or make it so the person never existed, and then they can bring it back just so they can humiliate the person over and over again. Pretty sure a lot of you have thought about what you would do if you had powers to the people that you specifically don't like or who did things to you. Yes, I know, so did I.
What's it like living without the internet?
It's all right. I just get photos of your mom through the mail.
It's a good stress reliever too, because in your mind, after you're finished living that fantasy of ripping someone apart, it's like you actually did it in that universe and you're like, showed them, even though the person is still walking and fine, completely oblivious as to what you just did in your head to them. Anyways, as I said, the plan goes wrong and Rick is like, okay. He pulls Morty into the vat of acid, but it's a fake vat of acid. It's just made to look like the real stuff all around them. So of course the aliens are gonna test it out, and Rick also thought about this ahead of time. So he has blast guns underneath to basically emulate the effects of the acid, or the effects the acid would have on materials that they would put into the vat. I also like the alien's response because he's like, holy crap, his grandson? Why would he pull his grandson in there? Like, that's sick, dude. I haven't seen that in a long time. And for a mob boss to say something like that, considering how many atrocities they probably do, you know that this guy, they're looking at him like, why? Like, it's so funny. Oh my god. And then because they're also mad at each other, the plan doesn't exactly work the way it's supposed to. When they're supposed to release rat skeletons, instead they release human skeletons. And then the mob members are like, those are some big ass bones for that rat. I didn't know they had that many bones. Because they're not thinking anyone's inside the acid doing all of that. I love how Rick just prepared everything. He's freaking awesome, dude. I don't even know how their eyes are open, but they are. And I like how he also had a bar for them to put their legs under so they don't float back up. I love the tirade. I love watching Rick lose his shit.
Can't do it.
There is nothing I cannot do.
A play-saving video game thing.
You're a piece of shit!
Just say you can't do it!
I won't!
You won't say you can't!
Fuck you, Morty!
Fuck you!
Fuck you!
And what was really cool about this episode was I thought the creators were losing their touch, because for a while there, Rick didn't seem like Rick. I'm like, dude, why is Rick saying...
Call me.
You were right, Morty. I failed. I can't make it. And honestly, I'm pretty ashamed. That might be why I've been so aggressive and unfair about rejecting your ideas.
I'm like, that's not who Rick is. Like, really? He's such a good person. It's freaking weird, dude. Like Deadpool acting like Tommy from Rugrats, even though he does sometimes. But I'm just not used to it. And honestly, I was a little bummed out. I'm like, oh my god, are they gonna turn Rick into this? Why would they do that? This is so inconsistent with who he actually is. Then we find out in the end, it was all a ruse the entire time. Like, he was like, Morty, I failed. Yeah, of course I made it, bitch. And then in the end, it was just a double whammy. And dude, how far ahead Rick thought about all of this just made me like, I can't say it on YouTube, but it made me feel things. Oh, so freaking weird. Don't know what's happening. But anyway, even though Rick is somebody that most people would be like, he's evil, I hate him, he's a terrible person. You know what? People respect him. And those same people that hate people like that in real life idolize him in the show. I've seen it. I've seen the tweets. These are the same Sensi people that are like, toxic masculinity. And then they look at Rick and they're like, I want to bone Rick so hard. And I'm just like, dude, fuck. Rick is so powerful, he Mr. Manhattan himself into making Sensi's hot for him. Really tells you what they're really thinking, huh? Talking all this big game, having all that bark, but you want to secretly be bitten. I see how it is. Morty also enjoyed having his little toy, and that in and of itself was great. It kind of feels like Solar Opposites, what they did there in that show, because within a show, you had another show. So I felt like I was watching Alive, that movie that was based on. I know there were other references here, like South Park and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and something else, but honestly, I was focusing so much on that device and what would really happen if you use something like that. I mean, it would be great, but things wouldn't mean as much because you could just, you know, have a do-over. And does it go by age too? If Morty keeps doing it, is it actually putting him back in time? Now we find out that Rick doesn't do time travel. Yeah, okay, but he explained it a little further in this episode, which made it funny. But basically, every time Morty made a save point or a checkpoint and went back, he replaced another Morty or he killed another Morty. So everything that he did actually did happen in another timeline, and I called it. As soon as they started, me and my partner were watching it, we're like, yeah, I think that he's creating alternate timelines. I really do think that's what's happening, because it can't be so easy, and they've even shown a little bit of this in previous seasons. Then Rick has the power to merge all of those realities together. Dude, he's a living, walking reality stone. He did all of that just to teach Morty a lesson. This entire episode, it was just a fuck you, Morty. Remember who you're talking to. I'm not Rick the bitch. I'm Rick the lich.
Don't ever make fun of me again, ever! All right, come on, Morty, let's go home.
Wait, what? This isn't our reality?
Wait, you think I'd waste our home teaching you a fucking lesson?
I think the reason I love this episode so much is because it kind of reaffirmed who Rick is and how powerful he is and what a badass character he is. He is essentially the Adult Swim's version of One Punch Man without the punch. He's the unforgettable cerebral character of the Rick and Morty show. Part of the charm of the show, I feel personally, is seeing Rick in situations and knowing that he's gonna show his badassery at any moment. And what I found also profound was having that tiny inkling of doubt that Rick was actually capable, knowing that he should be capable. Just that ever so small hint of incertitude. Experiencing my very own incredulity at how all of a sudden Rick Sanchez, Lord of the Dimension traveling, has become incapable, inadequate, and incompetent. Seeing him floundering at something that should not be a big deal for him, such as making that little game for Morty, feeling defeated that he actually can't do it. And then getting the payout and him saying, of course I did it. And I'm like, yes, you're such a badass, Rick, yes! That's like when my dad used to do that little thing where he said he would bring home something for me, like a toy or a car or something. And then he'd come home and he's like, I forgot, baby. I'm sorry, princess. And I'm like, oh, it's okay, daddy. But I was disappointed. And then he's like, just kidding, here it is. But I didn't just get you one car, I got you two. And I'm like, oh my God, daddy. And like, it's so freaking amazing. You just get that reaffirmation or that revalidation of your trust and confidence in this person that you idolize. And then there was an even bigger payoff when in the end, he had actually planned this whole thing, letting us see how long-sighted Rick actually is. And also letting us see that he is not the person you want to mess with. He did all of that to lecture his grandson, but then it was a bigger payoff because it turns out that the whole reason he did it in the first place was because Morty messed with him in the first place. Not because he was pressuring him to make the little checkpoint game saver thing, but because Morty questioned his idea about the acid. He made Morty get into the acid. It's kind of emasculating for Morty, like, yeah, bitch, that's what I thought. I had you rolling, didn't I?
Every Rick has a vat!
There's so many feelings I have about this episode. I can't even cover all in this video. You can tell the video is a little bit longer than it should be. Oh my God, I hate it when my phone vibrates when I'm recording. Like, it doesn't vibrate for hours. The minute I sit down to speak, that's when it starts going on. I have to put it on the freaking carpet just for it to not make noise. Because apparently the do not disturb button still means vibrate at the strength of a magnitude 10 earthquake. Anyways, absolutely love this episode. This episode was epic. Oh my god. They even titled it the Vat and the Acid episode, because you're gonna be talking about it. You're gonna say this is the episode. Remember that episode? The Vat and the Acid episode? How badass that episode was. One of the greatest episodes of Rick and Morty. I'm pretty sure that's why they named it that way. Rick is badass, man. He's just so badass. He's a perfect villain and the perfect hero all rolled up into one. I cannot even say how much I enjoyed this episode. Like, I'm so floored by it. Honestly, it was so well done. I want to see how they're gonna top this. It was great. And I look forward to see what Rick and Morty are gonna come up with next. God, I love this show. Thanks so much for watching. This has been Ultiori. You ask, we happen. Wait, what? Stop vibrating!